What if everything you thought you knew about the divide between Eastern spirituality and Western logic was completely dismantled in a single afternoon in 1893?
It's a wild thought, right? But that is exactly what happened.
Today, we are looking at a moment in history where two massive mind floods collided. And the ripples are honestly still shaping how we think about mindfulness, religion, and human potential today.
It really is a moment that redefined global intellectual history. I mean, we are talking about the introduction of Eastern philosophy to the Western world on a mass scale.
And it fundamentally altered the trajectory of modern thought.
Exactly. It brought concepts that are now just commonplace right into the Western lexicon.
Before we jump in, if you love gaining knowledge quickly but thoroughly, do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and share this deep dive with a friend.
It really helps us keep bringing you these shortcuts to being well-informed.
Yes, thank you for that. And speaking of being well-informed, we have an incredible journey ahead of us today.
We really do.
We are looking at excerpts from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, specifically volumes 1, 2, and 3.
And I just have to say, these volumes are incredibly dense.
Oh yeah, very.
But they're foundational. They contain his addresses at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, his lectures delivered everywhere from Los Angeles to London.
And perhaps most fascinatingly, his profound historical analysis of India.
Right. He spends a great deal of time unpacking what he calls Buddhistic India and the evolution of the Vedanta philosophy.
The mission of this deep dive is to explore those revolutionary teachings. We're going to focus heavily on his synthesis of Hinduism, his bold historical analysis of Buddhism's impact on India, and his intensely practical philosophy of action and the human soul.
Which is key, because this isn't just about abstract theology.
No, not at all.
It's about how we work, how we help others, and how we view our own limitless potential.
He didn't just bring a new religion to the West. He brought a framework for universal tolerance.
A highly psychological approach to human suffering, really.
And a sweeping sociological critique of his own country's history. It is a masterclass in connecting the micro, the individual human mind, with the macro.
The rise and fall of entire civilizations over thousands of years.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's set the stage, because the context here is everything. The year is 1893.
Right in the thick of the Gilded Age.
Exactly. The place is Chicago, Illinois. It's the World's Columbian Exposition. And as part of this massive World's Fair, they're holding the World's Parliament of Religions.
Now, Chicago at this time is described in our sources as the Western Civic Queen.
I want you to picture this booming industrial metropolis, its feet on the shores of Lake Michigan, brooding with the light of the North in her eyes.
It is the absolute epicenter of the Occidental mind.
Teeming with the chaos, the energy, the modern struggle, and that relentless mechanical drive of the West.
And into this hyper-modern, intensely ambitious psychological arena.
This sea of mind that is young, tumultuous, and overflowing with industrial self-assurance.
Walks a figure who represents the exact opposite end of the human experience.
Swami Vivekananda steps onto the platform. He is a wandering monk, clad in bright yellow robes.
But the contrast isn't just visual, it is temporal and philosophical.
As the text describes it, behind him lay an ocean, calm, with long ages of spiritual development.
He represented a world that dated itself from the ancient texts of the Vedas.
A world where even Buddhism, which is 2.5 millennia old, was considered almost modern.
I love that image so much. Two mind floods colliding.
You have the industrial, aggressive West meeting the introspective, ancient East, and the text makes a massive claim right up front.
It does. It says that when Vivekananda began his address, he was speaking about the religious ideas of the Hindus.
But by the time he finished, Hinduism had been created.
Which is a bold statement.
What does that actually mean? I mean, Hinduism obviously existed before 1893.
Well, it existed, but not in the unified way we think of it today. What the text means is that before this moment, Hinduism was often viewed by outsiders.
And frankly, even by many within India.
Right, as a fragmented collection of innumerable sects, local customs, differing philosophies, and seemingly contradictory rituals.
To a Western observer, it seemed like a chaotic hodgepodge of polytheism and mysticism.
But Vivekananda provided the formulation of the common basis. He synthesized it.
He articulated a unifying framework that embraced everything from the highest, most abstract philosophy to the everyday rituals of the masses.
Giving it a cohesive, articulate identity on the world stage.
And his core message was a total shock to the system for that 1893 audience. He didn't get up there and preach mere tolerance.
And let's be honest about what tolerance usually means.
Right. Tolerance implies, I'm right, you're wrong, but I'll politely put up with your presence because I'm a civilized person.
He preached universal acceptance.
He told them, we believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true.
He quoted an ancient hymn he had repeated since childhood.
As the different streams having their sources in different places all mingle their water in the sea, so, O Lord, the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to thee.
Think about the absolute radicality of that statement in a 19th century context.
He was standing on a platform shared by apostles of particular exclusive creeds.
Many of whom firmly believed their way was the only way to salvation.
And Vivekananda stands there and declares that all these religions are just different men and women traveling through various conditions to the exact same goal.
He shifts the paradigm entirely from a competitive model of religion
Where faiths battle for supremacy and converts.
to a cooperative, evolutionary one.
To really drive home why people get so stuck in that competitive exclusionary mindset, he told a story on September 15th, 1893.
The frog in the well story?
Yes, I read it in the sources, but I'd love for you to break it down, because it perfectly captures sectarian bigotry.
It's one of his most famous parables, and it goes exactly like this. He tells the audience, a frog lived in a well. It had lived there for a long time.
Born there and brought up there.
Exactly, and yet was a little small frog. Well, one day another frog that lived in the sea came and fell into the well.
And they have a little chat.
Right. The well frog asks, where are you from? I am from the sea. The sea, how big is that? Is it as big as my well?
And he takes a leap from one side of the well to the other.
My friend, said the frog of the sea, how do you compare the sea with your little well?
Then the well frog takes another leap and asks, is your sea so big?
And the sea frog says, what nonsense you speak to compare the sea with your well.
And the punchline.
Well then, said the frog of the well, nothing can be bigger than my well. There can be nothing bigger than this. This fellow is a liar, so turn him out.
Wow. So he's essentially calling out everyone in that room, telling them their worldview is just a tiny well.
Precisely. It is a devastatingly effective critique of dogmatism, precisely because it is so disarmingly simple.
The frog in the well isn't inherently evil.
No, its ignorance is merely a product of its limited environment and its stubborn refusal to imagine anything beyond its own direct experience.
Vivekananda immediately applies this to the human condition, looking out at this vast assembly of global religious leaders.
He says, I am a Hindu. I am sitting in my own little well and thinking that the whole world is my little well. The Christian sits in his little well and thinks the whole world is his well. The Mohammedan sits in his little well and thinks that is the whole world.
He completely levels the playing field.
Showing that bigotry is just a symptom of a narrow, unexpanded mind.
The reaction from the American public and the press was just incredible. Our sources include actual newspaper clippings from 1893 and 1894.
The Boston Evening Transcript, the Harvard Crimson, the Baltimore American.
They were all utterly fascinated. They called him a heathen from a race they measured in thousands of years.
Pointing out that America measured its age merely in hundreds.
And here was this monk teaching them about true charity. One paper even highlighted his critique of the dollar caste sentiment that he saw infecting the dominant European and American races.
That dollar caste phrase is so sharp, and it cuts right to the heart of the Gilded Age.
Vivekananda was observing an America characterized by immense wealth accumulation, the rise of the robber barons, and stark, brutal inequality.
He was pointing out the hypocrisy of the West. The West constantly criticized India for its rigid social caste system based on birth.
But Vivekananda noted that the West had simply replaced a caste of birth with a caste of wealth.
The dollar caste.
He challenged their assumptions of moral superiority, yet he did it with such eloquence and philosophical depth that even the local press couldn't help but be mesmerized.
They recognized that they were listening to the, quote, very finest product of the mental, moral, and spiritual culture of a race.
So he completely shatters their worldview on day one. But what is the actual philosophy he's teaching? How does he explain the universe?
That brings us to the core philosophy.
The soul, the universe, and the match. He starts by redefining what the Vedas even are. When we hear the word Vedas, we usually think of ancient, dusty books written in Sanskrit.
But Vivekananda says to his audience, by the Vedas, no books are meant. They mean the accumulated treasury of spiritual laws discovered by different persons in different times.
By doing that, he is explicitly aligning spiritual inquiry with the scientific method.
Which is why his message resonated so deeply in an era defined by the blasting light of modern science, as he called it.
The 19th century was the era of Darwin and rapid industrial scientific advancement. Traditional religion was terrified of science.
But Vivekananda embraces it. He uses a brilliant scientific analogy.
Just as the law of gravitation existed before humanity discovered it.
And would continue to exist even if all of humanity forgot it.
Spiritual laws exist eternally. They govern the moral and ethical relations between souls.
The ancient sages, the rishis, were not writers of the Vedas. They were simply the discoverers of these pre-existing laws.
Much like Isaac Newton was a discoverer of physical laws.
Exactly. And following that strictly logical approach, he tackles the concept of creation.
He tells them that the Vedantic view is that creation has no beginning and no end. Let me try to break down his argument here because it's heavy.
It is. Go for it.
He says, if there was a time when literally nothing existed, where was all this manifested energy? If you say it was resting in God, that makes God mutable.
Meaning God changes from potential energy to kinetic energy.
Right. And anything mutable is a compound, and compounds eventually undergo destruction. So God would die, which is an absurd conclusion.
Therefore, creation never had a beginning.
He uses this profound simile. Creator and creation are two lines, without beginning and without end, running parallel to each other.
It is a stunning refutation of the standard Western theological narrative,
which generally posits a static creator who exists alone in a void and suddenly decides to make a universe out of nothing at a specific point in time.
By positing creator and creation as eternal parallel lines, he solves the logical problem of a changing temporal God.
He posits God as the ever-active providence, by whose power systems are constantly evolving out of chaos.
Running for a time and then being destroyed, only to begin again?
It is a cyclical view of the cosmos that, as he pointed out to his audience, perfectly agrees with the emerging scientific understanding of the conservation of cosmic energy.
Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It merely changes form.
This shifts the focus directly to us, to the individual. If the universe is eternal and energy just changes form, what are we?
He asks the audience to shut their eyes and try to conceive of their existence without a body.
He asserts, I am a spirit living in a body. I am not the body. The body will die, but I shall not die.
I marvel at how he describes the soul.
He calls it a circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is located in the body.
That is poetry and geometry perfectly combined to describe human consciousness.
And that definition inherently implies immortality and boundlessness.
If the circumference is nowhere, the soul is not bound by the conditions of matter or space. Death, then, is merely the change of the center from one body to another.
But this naturally raises an objection, one that Western audiences